Godzilla Minus One has released in Japan, and soon the entire world. But don't forget that Monarch Legacy of Monsters is coming very soon. And this video is gonna have a ton of information, images, footage, all sorts of new things regarding the TV show, including some new menacing images of the big guy himself. And we even have the official reveal of 2 brand new titans, so you won't want to miss this. Let's get to it. So this information comes from Apple TV's YouTube channel, in the form of a 3-minute long behind the scenes video for Monarch Legacy of Monsters. This quick look into the production of the show tells us and you, the viewers, what to expect from this show. And now we've actually been given access to see some of the show already, so while I explain what was mentioned in this little behind the scenes video, I'm gonna give my input on how it relates to what I've seen on the show so far. Of course, absolutely zero spoilers here. Most of the stuff revealed here has nothing to do with the story, but it shows a lot of stuff that's gonna get hopefully tons of people hyped, so let's get right into it. It starts off with a very cool look at Godzilla's tail moving across the screen here, and now we're gonna see more on the big guy later on in the video, so stay tuned. And then the show's second best character behind Godzilla, Kurt Russell, comes onto the screen. He talks about his experience working on the show and more or less leaves his input stating that the impact that Godzilla has had on him and so many others is just something that's huge in this world. There's no denying that Godzilla's an icon at this point. And it's nice to see someone like Kurt Russell saying that. Here's a cool shot of one of the show's leading characters standing in Godzilla's footprint. Now the show's executive producers, Chris Black and Matt Fraction, talk about how exciting it was to work on a human story that's on a monster stage. And now after watching about half of the show, I can tell you that this is pretty much spot on. Now the show will focus on the human characters, and I want to let you guys know that that's not a bad thing. These are some of the best characters that we've seen in the MonsterVerse, if not the best, and maybe of all kaiju movies or productions. So don't let that get in the way of your thoughts, like the show is going to be a little bit different than like the movies, but I don't think that's going to bother most of you, because when the monsters do show up, you're going to be shocked and you're going to be just jaw to the floor. Speaking of these characters, Anna Sawai, who plays the character Kate Randa in the show, and the actress explains how the show has a luxury of having 10 episodes, so they were able to throw in a lot more detail and drama than we see in the movies. Each one of these episodes are about 50 minutes long, and CGI monsters are expensive, so they gotta fill it out with human adventuring and drama. And from what I've seen so far, she's exactly right. I've seen a ton of human drama in this show, but for the most part, it's actually quite good. A lot better than I ever expected it to be. And the writers have delivered characters that seem relatable, interesting, fun, and overall, for the most part, just a very clean script. Some people might not like the fact that there's a lot of human drama in this show, but it's not the type of drama to where people are just sitting in a room and they're talking like some backstabbing show that we've seen before in the past. The talking in the show and the drama is always constantly moving. You're always on the edge of your seat. It's very interesting and you never get bored. There's a lot of talking scenes, but there's always something going on while they're talking that makes you think that, wow, this is really action-packed still somehow. So it's just something you're gonna have to wait and see and give a chance. So we've heard from Kate Randa. What about Bill Randa? Well, actor Ander Holm says the show's gonna have 2 timelines that we follow, one taking place in the 50s and one in the modern age, which is actually around 2015, right after the events of Godzilla 2014, so sorta modern. And our present day characters are going to learn that they're connected to the decades of Monarch history that we see happen in the 50s flashback scenes. And trust me, when you finally get to see Kurt Russell, you're gonna love it. And let me tell you, those old 50s flashback scenes, those are my favorite part about this show. They are really dang good. And you guys are gonna love when it goes back to that era. You get to learn so much rich MonsterVerse lore. And now we go back to Matt Fraction, and he says something that you Godzilla 2014 fans are truly gonna love. He states how the humans in this show are actually scared of monsters again. They're not superheroes, they're not these crazy kaiju scientists. Everyone's still afraid of the monsters. In his words, he says everything is still new and insane to them. And I truly did feel that dread again while watching the show. There's already been some scenes in the series that have made me feel more suspense and terror than anything I felt in the last 2 MonsterVerse movies. It's then mentioned how the show will have epic locations across the world that the show was filmed on. There's going to be a ton of different environments that this series will feature, and most of them are completely real places. There's not much CGI made up landscapes in the show. I really like the fact how they actually went to real locations, real nice beautiful scenery places. They even went to Tokyo, so that's cool. And as far as filmmaking goes, this show does look like a movie, not a show. And I feel like these epic scenery locations and shots really seal that deal. Now listen close on this one. The producers go on to say that MonsterVerse fans, you know, us, will see something that honors what they have seen so far from the series. Meaning that they're not going to completely butcher the lore and everything we've seen so far like so many other franchises are doing right now. Pretty much all of them except the MonsterVerse are butchering what was made before, trying to make something new. And well, it just seems like Toho and the MonsterVerse people are like, now we know what our audience likes, we're gonna really try to drive that home. So good on them for actually listening to their audience and not turning their backs on the fans that made them in the position where they're at in the first place. And as this little behind the scenes clip ends, we're reminded of what the show will deliver to audiences. The humans are real and relatable, but more importantly, the monsters are real badass. And now I haven't seen the entire season so far, but from what I have seen, all the elements explained in this little tidbit of information that we just got pretty much come together to make a really solid show. If you're a longtime MonsterVerse fan, you're going to be respected, you're going to get what you've been wanting. And if you're a new fan who's not really into kaiju movies and you don't want to see monsters fighting the whole time, well, the human elements of the series are actually quite good. The writing's some of the best I've seen in a TV show in quite some time. And I'm not just saying that as like a shill fanboy. But we're not done yet. Thanks to Entertainment Weekly, we got even more details about the show, and 4 officially released images of some of the creatures and titans that you're gonna see in Monarch Legacy of Monsters. Going back to executive producer Chris Black, in this article, he says, quote, "What we set out to do was to make a show set in the MonsterVerse that wasn't focused on the monsters. We felt we couldn't compete with the feature films and we shouldn't try. To build a television series, you have to create a cast of characters, a set of people that you want to follow week to week, and, if you're lucky, multiple seasons. This is a show about people who have woken up and live in a world where monsters are real." And that just continues to drive in what we learned from the behind the scenes video that we just covered. Now let's get on to those monster images. You'll recognize this first one, good old Mother Longlegs. We got to see Mother Longlegs in action in Legacy of Monsters, and while its scene is brief, you're not going to be disappointed. Let's hear what Matt Fraction has to say about bringing back this iconic monster, as well as John Goodman and his character, Bill Rhonda. One of the gifts of the show being set in the legendary MonsterVerse world is we got to take the entire timeline as a playground. Since this is about the Rhonda family legacy, and John Goodman's character from Kong Skull Island is one of the founders of Monarch, we had this opportunity to go back to get John in the Bill Rhonda gear, and to put him in the jungle, and to revisit Skull Island. It was about getting Bill Rhonda back in the jungle and on the run from this crazy piece of wildlife, and kicking things off with something new and terrifying while revisiting this canonical piece of story. Now you can actually see this full scene featuring Mother Longlegs, Bill Rhonda, and the next creature we're going to talk about, the newly revealed Mantleclaw, on a video over on IGN, so feel free to go check that out if you want, and we'll save talking about it for when the show actually comes out. Speaking of the new crab monster, the Mantleclaw, let's take a look at it. This monster actually ends up fighting the Mother Longlegs, and you're going to love that fight scene. And according to the producers, the idea to make this a crab-like titan was pretty self-explanatory. What type of creatures in our real world do you commonly see roaming around the rocky coastlines near oceans? Crabs. The next Monster Entertainment Weekly talks about you're gonna recognize the G-Man. Now this is another shot from the San Francisco incident back in 2014 where he attacks the bridge. And now I want to save talking about the scene for when the show actually comes out. But for real guys, no joke, they actually do something in this show at this point that most TV shows and movies are afraid to do. So when it happens, you're gonna see it and you're gonna be like, holy crap, did they really just do that? And now we're on to the last creature. Now when these things were first revealed in the teaser, a lot of people thought that they were some Muto eggs, you know, the Mutos from the 2014 movie. But in fact, they're completely different. And when they come on screen, it doesn't feel like you're watching a Godzilla thing anymore. It feels like you're watching something from like Alien. It feels like a horror movie. Matt Fraction says, "It was fun to remind the audience that not all Titans are 400 feet tall. There's danger everywhere of all kinds of scale and size." And now that pretty much sums up our coverage of what was revealed this last G-Day for Monarch Legacy of Monsters. We have a ton of content planned for this new show, so if you're not subscribed, make sure to do so, and hit the bell so you stay up to date on when the new videos come out. You guys go on and have a good day now. This has been Jacob, and I'll see you in the next one.